point thing, so I just got some notes here I'll go by. So basically what we're talking about today is just clam chum fishing. What I like about it, it's family friendly, it's great for kids, and you can get keepers actually, because with these new rules now, it's insane with the 20 to 31, and that might even be changing now. They're talking, I don't know, you heard something too, you were telling me that they might be changing now the regulations for striped bass yet again. So right now it's a 20 to 31, but with the clam chum fishing, it's really good. Get the kids out there, you could dead stick them if they want, especially now with the surf hooks, but I'll get into all of that. So basically what you want to do, when you're setting out, you want to pick your tides, what you're going to fish, where you're going to fish. So lately I've been liking the incoming tide, been better than the outgoing tide. Mostly you would think that the outgoing would be better because you have the warmer water and everything's flushed out the bays, the bait and everything. But for some reason last year, the incoming was much better, much more productive than the outgoing tide. So it depends on what you want to fish now. You want to think about where you're going to go with those tides. So I like to fish bridges, dock lines, any type of structure. By me, it's Atlantic Beach Bridge, the Meadowbrook Bridge. Any of those bridges are great. Dock lines are fantastic, but again, you would fish those two different ways. With the tide, I'll get there, let's say, right as the tide is done, get ready to change. You want to set your anchor. One of the issues you might have when setting anchor is the current's going to start ripping really, really hard eventually. And he'll tell you too at the Atlantic Beach Bridge how much it could rip. And I've seen many times where guys will drop anchor and they'll get it caught in their prop because the current now, if it's moving, if you're like in mid-current, that current's moving, that anchor goes under the boat with the current. So you got to be very, very careful. I've seen that happen many times where people have gotten anchors caught in their props and boom, they're smashing into the bridge. So in a situation like that, what you want to do is basically get up, your current, this is why I say the best time to get there is basically on the slack, is because now you don't have that movement. But if it's a case where you get there and it's already moving, you want to get up to your spot, go extra further, you know, where you normally would go, drop that anchor, but as soon as you drop it, get ready to throw that boat in reverse. This way your anchor's going to stay put and your boat's going with the current, and it gives it time to hit the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, it's going to stay. Then you're fine, you set your anchor, and of course make sure that it's it's secure before you turn off that boat. Again, basically this is all like for bridge fishing, structure fishing. Now your baits, when you want to go into your baits, basically your clam chumming, so you're going to want to take a box of clam chum with you, usually like a 2.5 gallon box, cardboard box that comes in. I don't know if they do the 5 gallon ones anymore. And you want to have either a chum pot or a chum bed. Sorry. For the bottom fishing, we use chum cages, and you want to bring a lot of weight with that because, again, we're dealing with a lot of current. So what I do at the Atlantic Beach Bridge, when I'm fishing the bottom, I bring a cage. It's usually about, I think it's a 4 gallon cage made of that black metal stuff. Any tackle store sells it. And with that, you can take that, you get that, you put the chum in it, make sure it's clam chum, not bunker chum. I've made that mistake before. And you take that chum, once you're all set up, the current, you want the current to start moving, because if the current is not moving, you're basically going to get cramped. Your chum's not flowing. Everything with striped bass is movement. You want current movement. So put your chum in, drop it to the bottom, tie it up. I like to go mid-cleat. This way if you're fishing in the back, that chum's basically coming past you. So you want mid-cleat. Some people go front cleat. I don't go that far up. I like to keep it within reach of my hand. If I want to shake it a little. So you have that set. So now your anchor's set, and now we start fishing, and we started without chum. Okay? From there, you're going to get your baits. There's 2 baits that we use. We either use fresh clams. I prefer bellies the best. And I never ever, and I tell you don't do it, don't use salted. Salted's garbage. It's too hard. It's probably better for bottom fishing. It's not good for clam chum fishing at all. If you use the bellies, make sure you get them the day before and let them thaw out. You know, and the bellies is like the soft part of the clam. Actually, the whole story behind bellies is when the guys were making a clam chowder, they would take the foot that everything's the tongue of the clam, that big piece, they cut that off, that's your clam chowder. They chop it up, and all that guts, they were throwing overboard. And they started noticing that all these stripers were coming and eating it. You know, and they said, oh shit, look at this. So now they start boxing it and they sell it as clam bellies. It is the best bait you could use. It's got all the scent, all the flavor, all the gook, everything's in that belly. So that's why I personally use it. It's also a lot cheaper than if you buy a bucket of shucked clams. These days, I think a bucket of shucked clams, that little white bucket, is like $50, and a 2.5 box of clam bellies is $15. So 15 versus 50, it's a lot better. Sorry, I'm reading this. I'm not a good public speaker. I hate public speaking, but I'll give my best. Anyway, we talked about the chum cage. We talked about the current. If you're fishing the dock lines, you're not going to be fishing the bottom. The dock lines you want to fish the surface. For that, I would do is they have these little blue disposable chum bags. You could buy them. I think like Sea Striker, somebody makes them. Like $2-3 for the bag. You buy that, put the chum in there, and you can tie it to the boat and just let that fish the surface. Now with that, a totally different type of fishing. You're feeding out baits now. You know, feeding out the clams. There's no lead, no weights, zero on that one. And the other one, of course, is the bridge, which we use weights and stuff. The rigs I use. I got some stuff in here I can show you. See if I can do this without getting hooked. Now, they changed the rules, which I think is bullshit. They want circle hooks now for all bait. Any type of striped bass fishing do, if it has bait, they require circle hooks. With clam chum fishing, it's virtually basically impossible to use a circle hook. These fish take the bait, and within a second, they come up, it's gone. It's in their mouth. And the second you feel that hit, you gotta be ready to swing. They're always getting hooked in the mouth. I tried the circle hooks, and I let them eat it, and everyone's getting gut hooked now. So it's defeating the purpose of what they're looking for by using a circle hook. I mean, for bait and stuff, yes, they swim away with it, it pulls out, it gets caught in the corner. This is basically the clam chum rig. This is not the way I do it, I just did this to show. You can do it with a three-way, a simple three-way. This is, again, the bottom rig for fishing like structure on the bridges. Simple three-way. You want to give yourself some leader, 2 foot, it's fine. And the reason why that I'll explain, and then 3 to 4 foot of leader, and then your hook. Now if you notice, I left the tag in there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I did it on purpose. The purpose for that is, when you're putting clams on here in the bait, you're gonna take that, you're gonna form it, and then you're gonna take the bait and pass that piece of string, that piece of fish line. And that line does now, that holds the bait in place. So that little thing is kind of like, some people use the bait holder hooks, with little cuts in them. This is just a piece of line that you leave in the extra tag in, and it works wonders. It'll keep that bait nice straight on that hook. So that's one rig. If I was to use a circle hook, which I do obviously have on the boat for legal reasons, I do keep them on the boat. We use very, very wide gap, probably like 9/0 giant circle hooks. And what I'll do, again, this is a kid-friendly type of fishing. For the kids, I'll take 2 spinning rods, flip them out, you know, get them close to the bridge, put them in the thing, set them and forget them, lock them up, and that's it. Then the rod bends over. Then the circle hook is going to do its job. If I'm holding a rod, which I'll show you, this is the rod I use basically. Simple Daiwa reel with a St. Croix rod, I believe this is. G-Luma, sorry. So this is the rig I use. I do direct tie, mono to the braid, and then I put a swivel into my loop knot. I don't know if you can see that. It's in the knot itself. You can see that, okay? Again, leave a little extra leader. And then I have 20-pound fluoro to a 5/0 bait holder J-hook, again with a tag, okay? This happens to be a Gamakatsu. With the mustard hooks actually work really good because there is a situation where a hook goes into a fish, they rust out right away. I can show you some hooks I have here that already rusted. The reason why I leave this extra piece of leader here, and I don't like fishing directly on the bottom, is pretty simple. If this thing's flat on the bottom, it's not fluttering in the current. The striped bass like movement. So this thing's moving all over the place in the current. If you're on the bottom, it's dead. Crabs, sea bass, blackfish, you're gonna get everything biting at it. So you're trying to get above that all and keep this thing fluttering away from the little pesky critters there. So that's why I'll leave that. That's actually short, I usually go longer than that one. Okay, that's why I have that extra leader. What you wanna do, let me just check my notes where I'm up to. All right, cool. And for the surface, there would be no weight here, so it would be just that. So just picture that piece of weight's gone, and you know, the chum's going out, you sit in your chum slick, and you're just feeding it like this. You know, and all you get, it's a quick hit, set it. I'm not gonna set it here because I'll break the tip of the rod on the ceiling, but that's basically how we go. For the bottom now, you really wanna work baits, and it's so important. You will outfish everybody else if you walk these baits back. And what I mean by that is, the current just starts moving. I'm gonna start with a 2 ounce, okay? This thing's gonna hit the bottom and it's gonna stay for a second. What you wanna do is, I fish free spool, you're gonna lift this rod, and as you lift it, you take your finger off the line. And the current's gonna pull out the weight and the bait back, say 2 feet, okay? It drops down, wait a second. I'm still fishing in free spool. I never ever lock up the reel. You wait a second, you get a hit, you don't get a hit, repeat it. Same thing, lift it up, line goes out, drop back down, and wait a couple seconds. Okay, and that's walking the bait back. You're gonna walk that bait back in the chum until you find these fish. Sometimes they swim up the chum right away, other times they're gonna hang back where it's dispersing all over the place, and other times they'll stay by the structure, and you wanna try to pull them off that structure. But if they're staying by the structure, as you get closer to that bridge, you'll get your hits. Keep in mind where you're getting those hits too, because they're basically gonna be there. So once you get a hit, let's just say I'm walking it back without breaking anything, walking it back, boom. That's all you're gonna feel. Set that hook. First, you're gonna thumb it as tight as you can, this way you don't get a nest. Set that hook and drop it into gear. This reel I happen to love because it's multiple ways. You could put it that way, or you get that way too. You know, you lock it in really good. This is probably the best reel they ever made for clam chumming, and I don't think they make it anymore. I don't know why they stopped, but it's a really great reel for what I do. All right. This is actually the Big M bridge right here. This is us clam chumming on my buddy's boat. That's the Big Meadowbrook. Let's see where I'm at. Okay. Oh, also what you could do is, while your chum pod's down, you can get a real heavy sink, let's say a 10 ounce, and drop it right next to the chum pod, and just leave it. No, just set it, put the circle hook on, and just leave it there. Because if they are swimming on that chum pod, that rod's gonna go off, and also you look over, and you got a fish on. So that's a good thing to do too. Real heavy weight. As the current's moving, you're not gonna be able to use the 2 ounces anymore. You're gonna go to a 3 or 4 and possibly a 6. Depends on the moons and the tides and everything. But you'll see, you wanna make sure that bait's walking back. If your bait's dead and you lift it and it's going right back to the same spot, take the weight off, it's too heavy, go to a lighter one. All right, where else are we going here? Talking about fishing in free spool, and I show you to walk back. Okay, and I was saying also change those weights, make sure. You could start with basically nothing. Is it tight till you get in a slack, just let it flow naturally. You know, no weight whatsoever, just let it go, and I'll get into the chum on the bottom, and if there you'll hook up. If not, once that current starts moving, these fish are definitely current feeders. Once that current starts moving, put some weights on, start with a 2 and go from there, 2, 4, 5, whatever. I'm mostly 4 ounces, the number I'm usually at where I fish, and it works great. Sorry about that. Okay, once you locate these fish, like I said, keep in mind where you are. They're probably gonna still be in there. They will eventually walk up, you know, swim their way up the chum to find out where that food's coming from, this restaurant. But you're gonna walk it back, you're gonna find, oh, I got that, you know, in whatever, midway. You missed the fish, reel it up, the bait's gone, rebait it, set it back out, try to get to that same area, and you're probably gonna get hit that exact same area where you had that hit originally, you know. Also, they like scent, so you wanna change the bait. You're in a lot of current, you know, you're walking that bait back, the scent comes out. So if you do it once, twice, take the bait off, throw it away, put a fresh bait on and do it again. That's another reason why the bellies are good, because there's a lot of scent in that versus the actual clams itself. Okay, I talked about the bridge, like behind structure. A lot of times you want to pull fish off that bridge. And if you notice that, another thing you could do, if you know that those fish are staying on that structure, they're not coming up that chum slip. They want to stay in that shadow line, they want to stay on those bridges. Instead of starting right by the boat, just flip it up. Give yourself a head start. Flip the bait up, get it, drop it down, and again, start walking it back till you get those hits. Okay. The whole thing with the circle hook I spoke about, if you're gonna do the circle hooks, definitely go with a bigger gap. You know, this way to have a better chance of hooking. That's a very small gap. So this thing, that's, I mean, you know what striped bass's mouth is very bony, very big. That's like really tiny. You know, and that would be a normal hook that we use. This might be a 5/0 circle hook. And for a J hook, it'd be great. But for a circle hook, that's what the important part of a circle hook is the gap. How far that gap is, the point to the shank. Okay, this right now maybe would work with an eel. Personally, this is too small for me for striped bass. I just demonstrate. So you want to use like a 9/0, an 8/0, a much bigger. I actually might have some in here, let me see. Yeah, you can see right here the gaps on these, how much bigger they are. You know, much bigger gap. And you're gonna use an exaggerated hook, but to hook them. The guy in this video, oh, it's over, he was there. He actually uses circle hooks and still strikes. And he's got like a 75% chance of hooking. You know, a lot of times he'll pull it and the hook will just rip out of its mouth because of the circle hook. Other times he hooks it, but he does it, you know, I do things illegally, I guess, I don't know. I like the J hook, so. All right, what else? Once you get a fish, you're gonna fight it, get it to the boat. If it's a keeper, you can net it, nothing wrong with netting fish. If it's not a keeper, I just like to get them by the lips. You can get grabbers. You saw it on my butt, the plastic grabber. Or you can thumb them and stuff like that. That's fine. Get it in. If it is a keeper, it's so important, bleed your fish. Take the extra second, measure it. Okay, cool, we got a 20.5-inch fish, amazing. I keep a little knife in the boat, something simple and small, you know, like that. And what you do is, without cutting myself, you just want to hit them here and here. So in the gills, if you look at the fish's head, there's the red gill, then there's the body, there's a white membrane. It's just a piece of white flesh like this paper. You just slice that and you're gonna see the blood come pumping out. It's so important, because when I go back to the fillet table, my fillet table's white. When I'm done filleting my fish, my fillet table's still white. If you see guys that fillet fish that don't bleed them, it's a bloody fish. It's like your shirt. There's blood all over the place, and you can taste that in the meat. It's like that irony, disgusting taste. If you bleed them, you know, you're shaking your head. Yes. It's so important. I can't stress enough. Bleed them, ice them in a brine. Ice, a little water in it, a little salt water. Get them. The fillets are a bazillion times better when you get back. It's so important to do that. The limit here is like 1 per man, and right now it's 20 to 31. With the kids, again, the dead stick. If you have those 2 dead sticks out, if it goes off, just grab it and start reeling. It's already hooked. You don't need to set the hook on it. The circle hook's doing its job for you, and that's it. And then it's great. The kids have a great time doing it. A lot of charters I was doing was for the kids, and it's a bay fishery. They're not getting seasick. It's very good for them. And I can't stress that enough. It's so important to get these kids out fishing. If it's a big fish and you get it in, if it's over, under, just release it. You know, people swim it and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't believe in that, to be honest with you. Unless it's a big fish that's tired, then you put the boat in gear and you can swim it. I take them head first, drop them in, and boom, they're gone. They take off. They get that quick little hit of oxygen, and they're gone. Like I said, the fish will tend to stay in the same area, work that area. As you see them moving up, then start working your baits closer. You know, you can see. Shake that chum pot a little bit. Give it a quick shake. Do a burst of clam chum. Shoot it out and follow that. And as you do that, have a bait ready. I'll shake the chum pot, drop that bait, boom, start going back with that burst of bait that went out. Where am I? As the weather gets warmer, the temperature of the water is going to get warmer, bring extra chum with you. A block usually, like as the season's coming towards an end, it's probably like 2 hours maybe I'll get out of a block and it's over. So you definitely want to go out with 2 blocks of chum. In the winter times, the colder months, the falls, early spring, it's going to last longer. You know, you can probably get away with the one to do a 4-hour trip. Talked about the regulations, and I don't know what's going to happen with 2024. Who knows what they're going to do. But back to the rigs and stuff. Let me show you one hook I got here. I know I have one in here somewhere. So these are the hooks I use on the charters. And these are just a plain old Mustad 4.0 bait holder hook. And you can see, these are in my tackle box, and they're already rusting. But that's a simple little hook. They're very cheap. You could buy like a box of 100 probably for like 15 bucks. And that's just it. And you can see there's 2 little bobs on it. But that's basically the hook I'll use on the boat. Or these. But when the bluefish come in, these can get expensive compared to this. This they bite off, no big deal. You can pass it around, don't get hooked. You can see that's a simple bait holder. And that's a 4.0 Mustad bait holder, bronze. And then these are the Gamakatsus, these are just the 5.0s. This package of 25 costs more than that package of 100 probably. So that's why I use those on the boat. And plus, if the fish does swallow, it will rust out. And you can see already the condition of that hook. What I like to use for the rigs itself is a camel line. This is 40-pound test. This line works wonders. It's really a good line. I don't know if it is visible in the water. I don't know, but it seems to work much better than regular white line. And I start with 40. If the fish are finicky, we'll go a little less. I don't buy these things. Whereas I don't have a spool here. The spools of lines, the small spools, because it's the exact same thing that's in here. They're just put on a spool and charge you twice as much. So you just buy these spools and you're fine. Thanks. And then you take as you need. I leave these on the boat. I take them as I need it. You could use fluorocarbon. When I'm doing the tournaments over there, I'll always use the fluorocarbon. I do feel like it gives you an advantage with it, because now you see that bait, they might see the line. I don't know. But I go anyway. This is 20. That's actually 20 on that rod as well. 20-pound fluoro, and you can see how thin that is. And you can see videos where people compare fluorocarbon to regular mono, and there's videos on YouTube, and you can see the difference that this will disappear. You can't see the line. So that does make a big difference. If you are catching bluefish, be sure to check your line. you know, start getting all frays in here if they don't take the hook. Because if you don't change it, you know, your next one's gonna be a keeper bass, and what's gonna happen is you're gonna lose it. So definitely take that extra second. Oh man, there's a fray. Cut it off, takes 2 seconds to retie it. And when you tie those hooks, the way I was doing, it's a simple clinch knot. You know, you go up 6 times, put it through, pull down, you're done. And leave that tag in, because that's what's gonna hold that bait on. Before I was talking about forming the bait, so what I mean by that is that when you take your bellies, it's just it's a bunch of shit. That's what it is, you know, it's a clob of gook. You take that, thread it through your hook, and now you got this wad of gook. Take it, pull it over that piece of line that I showed you, and you can form it into your hand. So now it's streamlined. You don't want the bait to spin like this. All you're gonna do is screw up your line. You're gonna have it all over the place. It's gonna like come up on your other monofilament. So you wanna keep it streamed. That's why also we use the swivels in here. You can see that. But if you form that bait and you keep it streamlined, it's gonna flutter in the water like this perfectly. You could watch it. And as that current's pulling, it's the fluttering bait. And they're gonna swim up on that, you know, boom. If you have a bait that's round and it's spinning, they're not gonna hit it. It's going like this in the current. The bass is looking at it saying, what the fuck is this? You know, they don't know what the hell's going on. So you wanna take that extra second, form your bait, get it out there and do it. That makes a big difference too. You'll see, like I could be sitting next to a boat right next to me and they're not catching anything and I'm pulling one after another, and it's all just that extra couple seconds you might take, the proper chum, the proper bait, the presentation of the bait. Whether it be fluorocarbon, regular, but this line has plenty, we catch them. Another thing you could do, and I wouldn't do this with multiple people, if you just have like, you know, you're fishing maybe you and a buddy, is you could take one of these swim plugs, and you can get another rod, and just flip it out behind the boat. The current's so strong that this blower's gonna do the work for you. So this thing now is in the current, going crazy. You're not even reeling in, you just leave it there, you send it, forget it. This thing's working, next thing you know, boom, the rod bends over. So it's another little thing, as they're coming up, they see this thing swimming. Again, you're talking, I'm fishing inlets to this current. The dock lines, maybe that wouldn't work as much. You probably use more of a shallow lip like this. You know, something with a little small lip. And you can do that along the dock lines where there's less current, and that's gonna slow. And as they're coming through those pylons and stuff, they see this lure, they might not be on the chum, they might be on a surface feed, this will get hit. And there's little tricks to do it, you know, it's fun. Yeah, just the weight, you know, this is a, I can't even see, it looks like a 3, you know, basically goes on the bottom hook, right here we go. You know, that's basically your rig. You know, it's gonna look something like that. And as you're going, you change it. I have videos on my YouTube page, you can see how to do all these rigs, how I do every one. It's all on there. But this is the best way to do it. The less jewelry you have, the better off you are. Especially when you're dealing with current and stuff like that. And that's a simple rig. And that's basically everything there is to clam chumming. Basically, make sure that clam, oh, and that also, as the tide's going up and down, you're gonna have to change where your chum is too. So if you start, let's say you're in the high tide, right, and now it's dropping down, you wanna pick that. You just don't want it sitting on the bottom. I like to keep it off the bottom just a little bit, 6 inches, a foot, whatever it may be, because as those boats are passing by and those waves are coming, your boat's rocking, and that's making more chum come out. So if it's flat on the bottom, it ain't gonna do nothing. It's gonna sit there and the crabs are gonna enjoy it. So keep it off the bottom just a little bit. I don't know the exact, 6 inches, whatever. But you'll see it, as the boat's rocking, that's getting put out too. And also, check it too. If you feel like, oh, I'm not getting hits, well, you probably don't have chum. And the problem with that is now you gotta try to build those fish again. And once they leave, you usually don't build them again. So you wanna make sure you check the chum. If you see it's going out, take it, a couple shakes, have some baits in the water, bring it up fast. You wanna do this really quick. Pull it up, open the cage, drop another chum in it. Have that chum ready that you're gonna change it. Have it open, because they come in a cardboard box and they're frozen solid. Have that thing open, ready to go. You put that cage in the boat, drop it in, get it back down as fast as possible. You know, you don't want to break the slip. That's what let's say. You don't want to break it. Even like in shark fishing, people go crazy. Oh my God, that guy drove through my slip. The reason why they're getting pissed off, because they broke the guy's slip. You know? So now you have chum, 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 there's a space. So now as the sharks say, do I keep going forward or do I just follow back this way where I know the bait is? You know, so you don't want to lose that slip, you don't want to lose the fish. And that's the same thing with this. Just want to make sure I touch on everything. Talked about salted, don't use them. Keep that for the bottom fishing. And make sure your chum is frozen solid. When you get those chums, get ice in your cooler, keep them in a cooler, make sure they're solid. You don't want to have any soft chum, you don't want to leave it on the deck. It's just going to go out faster, and before you know it, it's gone. So you want to keep it as frozen as possible. That's basically all the stuff I got in here. I talked about walking a bait back and thumbing it too. If you have guys that just don't really want to walk it back, they're not used to it, you could do it. You could flip it out, like I said, and just leave it locked up. Have them hold the rod, and just as soon as you feel that bite, let them swing on it. It's a reaction thing. You have to be able to hit that fish the second it hits that bait, because they just suck that in like a piece of spaghetti. Boom, it's gone, you know? And another thing, you can see it again on videos on YouTube. You will see how fast a bass will take an eel this big, it's gone. They suck it down, you know? The bait, the chum. A bunker, they're gonna swim with it, and you'll feel, when you get a fish on a bunker, they're gonna swim, they're gonna pause. When they pause, they're turning that bait around, they're putting it head first. They swallow that bait's head first, and then the fish is gonna take off again. And that's when you get that nice long run, okay? So that's the only one maybe they'll put in their mouth a little bit and change it instead of a quick sucking. But I think that's basically everything I talked about with how to clam chum around here. I'm just trying to look. I didn't bring my glasses on the line.
Are you taking questions?
Absolutely, I love questions.
I got a few.
Absolutely.
So, the distance from where you deploy your clam chum on your boat to where a bass is striking, do you find that there's a sweet spot, or it varies from season to season?
Sometimes it'll be right on the pot as soon as you drop down. You know, it also depends if you're fishing on top of structure. So where we fished, we have a bridge, an Atlantic Beach bridge. Then there's an old bridge. A lot of times I'll sit right on top of that old bridge and drop the chum right on that, and you have fish right on there. So that chum pot will work great because it's right there, drop straight down. That's why I say take a bait with a heavy weight, drop it right next to the chum pot, and just leave it. But you're gonna walk it back. As you're walking it, you're gonna know it. You can see, you'll see a line how far you are. Guesstimate, you know. If you get that hit right there, you either catch that fish, reel it in, go back. You'll probably still be in that same area. Sometimes they're gonna hide on the structure. They don't want to come out. They'll stay on the pilings, the icebreakers, any type of structure, boulders, mussel beds, whatever they might be by. If you notice that you keep getting hit there, they're not coming out. They're gonna stay in that structure, especially at dark time. They like to stay in the shadow lines. You can do that. Now, like I was saying before with that, take your bait, instead of walking it from the boat, you know you're getting hit there, just flip it. Get it out quicker, get it to the spot, and try to get that fish as fast as possible. But they will move, and then sometimes you'll see they're getting close to the boat. It was a 2-minute walk out, 2 minutes, boom. Now it's 1 minute, I'm walking out for 1 minute, 30 seconds, boom, wow, hitting it right away. If you watch some of the videos, you will see it too. You can see how we're getting quicker hits, and you'll hear us saying, okay, they're close to the boat now, they moved in. You hear us talking and stuff. But yeah, it's different all the time, but that's basically like how we do it. Always keep them by the chum though.
If you're tailoring this from fishing from the pier, would you change anything differently?
Surface. I'm sure the Jones Beach piers, I don't fish them, so I don't know. This is guesstimating me talking, but there's going to be movement there by the Jones Beach piers. If you took a chum bag and you put it on the top, you probably will catch them. But you're going to see it. It's going to flutter. The bait's going to stop. Sorry, not flutter. It's going to drift out, and the bag's going to just keep puffing. It's going to go out, and you'll see it moving. As long as you can see that bait going with the current, why wouldn't they hit it? Throw a bait out there and drift it back. I don't fish these piers, I don't know, but I fish the dock lines, which is a very similar thing. When I do the dock lines, I anchor my boat into the channel, I go back, and I'll tie to someone's dock. Usually I get yelled at, but it's okay. And you tie it to the dock, and now you're facing sideways, okay? So I put the chum right in the middle cleat, on the surface, and that's those blue bags. You don't have to get those blue bags, I just like them because when you're done, you throw them out. It's very messy to clam chum. You could take a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot and just drill it. Just make sure the holes are enough that the chum's gonna go out. It's smaller than bunker chum. So bunker chum, you might put holes this big. For the clam chum, it's gonna be much smaller drill holes. Pop that there, let it go, and you'll see the baits, once it starts going, sometimes you'll see them swim up the slick, and they're right next to the boat. They'll be picking off the bait, and they'll zooming in and out of the chum. Take your line, again, no weight this time, just flood it. The swivel itself and the bait on the hook is gonna sink it down to where it needs to be. And the current's gonna pull it, and all of a sudden, boom, that line gets ripped out of your hand. Set instantly, and that's basically it on that.
When you say dock lines, what
Sure.
do you mean? The ends of docks? I don't know that term.
I'm getting yelled at. Okay, so where are you from? Where do you fish out of?
I fish North Shore.